All right, let's jump right into this explainer and completely dismantle a massive industry myth. You know the one. The idea that stronger application security fundamentally has to come at the expense of a seamless user experience. For years, we've basically operated under this assumption that if you want to keep the bad actors out, well, you've got to put your legitimate users through an absolute obstacle course. But as we're going to see today, by unpacking a really unique architecture from Vonage and Amazon Web Services, that perceived constraint, it isn't actually a law of physics, it's really just a limitation of the tools we've been using. So let's explore how network-powered solutions are completely rethinking the entire authentication flow. To understand why a shift like this is absolutely crucial right now, we just need to talk about one staggering number. $23 trillion. That is the projected global cost of cybercrime by 2027. To put that into perspective, that represents a 175% increase from just 2022. And a massive, massive driver of this cost is a sudden surge in account takeovers, which have skyrocketed by 141% since 2021. With generative AI basically industrializing fraud threats, the old methods of securing the front door of your app are quite frankly buckling under the pressure. And then there's the collateral damage of our current security methods. Think about the friction tax. When you use standard SMS One-Time Passcodes, OTPs, there is a 20% abandonment rate. Only about 80% of those authentication flows are actually completed. That means 1 in 5 of your legitimate users simply drops off. They get frustrated waiting for a text, they mistype the code, or they just abandon their cart entirely. For an enterprise, this translates directly into lost conversions and literally hundreds of thousands of password recovery help desk tickets every single year. It's a massive hidden drain on resources. So how do we fix this? Well, it requires a fundamental shift in where we actually get our identity data. Traditional security relies heavily on legacy identity signals. We're talking cache databases, phone number lookups that might be days or even weeks out of date, or device fingerprinting that bad actors can easily spoof. It's all lagging information. Vonage's approach flips this on its head with network-powered intelligence. This operates on a totally different layer, using real-time data sourced directly from mobile network operators. And the best part? This data is unphishable because the proof of possession is the actual cellular data session itself. Section 1. The 3 pillars of protection. Vonage's security stack. The first pillar here is identity insights. Think of this as your pre-verification intelligence, like a highly proactive radar. Before your system even attempts to send out a verification text, Identity Insights pings the mobile network to check real-time operator signals. It's looking to see, was a SIM card swapped just minutes ago? Because that's a massive red flag for an account takeover in progress. Or it checks if the number is a VoIP or landline that's commonly used for synthetic bot accounts. It even compares the subscriber's name against the operator's KYC records. Basically, it identifies and blocks fraud attempts before a single OTP is ever sent, completely saving you from incurring verification costs or fraud processing overhead. The second pillar is the real game changer when it comes to eliminating that 20% friction tax we talked about. It's called Verify with Silent Authentication. When a user tries to log in from their mobile device, Vonage routes an HTTP request straight through the user's cellular data connection. The mobile operator instantly confirms that the SIM registered to that phone number actually matches the active session making the request. All of this happens entirely in the background in under 5 seconds with zero user interaction. The user never sees a code, types a code, or copies a code. And since the cellular session itself is the credential, you completely eliminate the risk of a bad actor intercepting an SMS or tricking a user into handing over a code through social engineering. And the final pillar in this stack is Fraud Defender. Now, if you work in enterprise finance, you already know the absolute nightmare of artificially inflated traffic or SMS pumping. That's where automated bots trigger massive volumes of OTPs to premium rate numbers just to drain your budget. Fraud Defender acts as real-time traffic monitoring right at the point of outbound delivery. It intelligently intercepts these malicious events before the costs rack up. It activates automatically with the Verify API, and get this, it has already saved Vonage customers over $3 million. In fact, for most, it typically pays for itself within the very first billing cycle. Section 2. Integrating with Amazon Cognito, the custom auth flow. Now, you might be wondering how heavy of a lift this is to implement. Well, it's beautifully seamless. It uses Amazon Cognito's custom auth flow, orchestrated by just 3 simple Lambda functions. First up, the client initiates the auth. The first Lambda tells Cognito to issue a custom challenge. Then the create auth challenge Lambda reaches out to Vonage for those pre-check identity insights.
If everything looks safe, the client is redirected securely over the cellular network for that silent verification. Finally, the third lambda validates the successful response, and Cognito issues the session token. The beauty of this architecture is that it requires absolutely zero disruption to your existing user pools or downstream services. You can practically deploy it with a single command.
And for the enterprise architects and compliance officers tuning in, there is a totally critical feature here: zero PII exchange. Because the cellular session itself is acting as the credential, no personally identifiable information ever leaves the mobile operator's environment. When you run a subscriber match, the operator simply returns a match score, just a yes or no, not the user's actual underlying data. This elegantly solves those complex compliance headaches, supporting strict data minimization requirements for things like GDPR in Europe, HIPAA in healthcare, and CCPA out in California. Section 3. Risk-aware workflows. Calibrating friction. This is where we bring it all together by perfectly matching your friction to your contextual risk. Take a daily login journey, for example. The risk level there is generally medium, so you just run a passive silent auth. These are experiences literally zero friction. They just open the app and boom, they're in. But consider a high-value transaction. That's a critical risk. In that scenario, the system dynamically triggers the full assurance stack. It checks the line type, looks for recent SIM swaps, verifies the subscriber match, and then performs silent auth. It can even add a secondary challenge if the risk score comes back elevated. The takeaway here is that you apply friction only when absolutely necessary, completely ditching unnecessary verification costs for those low-risk actions. Now, this isn't just some theoretical whiteboard architecture. It's driving incredible results in production today. Just look at Lydia Solutions, one of Europe's fastest-growing mobile financial apps. They deployed Vonage Verify with Silent Auth, and they noted that it elevated both their user experience and their security simultaneously. The numbers back it up, too. Lydia achieved up to a 50% reduction in authentication latency compared to their old setup. And across the board, in digital banking and e-commerce, companies are seeing conversion improvements of up to 8.5% just by dropping those standard SMS codes in favor of network-powered auth. So given that real-time cellular data can now verify your users securely in the background in actual milliseconds without them ever lifting a finger, we have to leave you with this provocative question to ponder. Are you still forcing your users to jump through hoops to prove who they are when their network already has the answer? It's really time to rethink the entire authentication flow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this helps you build smoother and far more secure applications going forward.